Welcome to Turbulent Years, 1955 to 1968. This is Melinda Klein. After World War II in America, millions of new jobs were created. Customer spending soared and inflation was low. The nation entered a period of unprecedented affluence. The middle class's post-war prosperity led to the development of a pervasive consumer culture. Advertising created images of ideal middle-class families surrounded by the trappings of wealth. Television came to dominate the leisure hours of Americans, and its programming and commercials reinforced the values of middle-class consumerism. With jobs and financial resources flowing to the suburbs, urban reformers inherited a declining economy and a decaying environment, what we would know as the other America. Internal migration from rural areas brought large numbers of peoples to the cities, especially African Americans. As affluent whites left the cities, urban tax revenues shrank, leading to the decay of services and the infrastructure. Ray Kroc, an ambitious traveling salesman, headed towards San Bernardino, California in 1954 on a business trip. For more than a decade, he had been selling milkshake machines to restaurants and soda pop fountains. On this trip, he was particularly interested in a family operation run by Richard and Maurice McDonald's, who used 8 of his milkshake machines, which had a capacity of making 48 milkshakes at one time. To Kroc, this eatery was popular for different reasons. Number 1, McDonald's was situated on busy highway Route 66. Number 2, they sold only standard hamburgers, milkshakes, and French fried potatoes. Number 3, their operation was clean, orderly, fast, and efficient. Not all Americans shared post-war middle-class affluence. Although most white Americans were barely conscious of poverty, it clearly existed in inner cities and rural areas. After World War II, continued prejudice against blacks blocked their access to better housing in new homes built in suburbs. African Americans had made significant gains during World War II, and in great numbers they rejected their imposed second-class citizenship. The racial questions of integration are best understood before the Civil Rights Movement in 1947, when Jackie Robinson, a Negro, broke the color line and began playing Major League Baseball with the Brooklyn Dodgers. As the economy expanded, there existed an increasing sense of sameness that pervaded American society. A middle-class ideal of 1, dedication to industry through hard work, 2, self-sacrifice, avoiding self-indulgent behaviors, 3, participating in education, 4, support of technology, science, and consumerism. Number 5, being a Protestant. Number 6, temperate habits in regards to alcohol. 7, sexual modesty. 8, family values. And 9, home ownership. Another significant sign of a rebellious youth culture in the 1950s was due to the popularity of music heavily influenced with black jazz and blues in rock and roll songs. By the 1950s, teens were asserting more independence, and Elvis Presley became a national symbol of their parents' concern. The Korean War began in 1950 until a ceasefire took effect on July 27, 1953. This war has not officially ended. The efforts for the South Koreans to remain free of the Northern Communist government was supported by the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, and the Philippines, although many other nations sent troops under the banner of the United Nations. While American teenagers flocked to Elvis Presley's concerts in unprecedented numbers, the singer was considered to represent a threat to the moral well-being of young American women. Even Priscilla Presley confirms that, quote, his performances were labeled obscene. My mother stated emphatically that he was a bad influence for teenage girls. He arouses things in them that shouldn't be aroused, end of quote. However, the economic power of Presley's fans became evident when they tuned in to alternative radio stations and played his records. In an era when radio stations were shifting to an all-music format in reaction to competition from television, profit-conscious radio station owners learned quickly when sponsors bought more advertising time on new all rock and roll stations, some of which reached enormous markets at night with clear channels signaled from AM broadcasts. TV highlighted rock and roll music with shows such as American Bandstand, while after-school kids watched Disney's Musketeers. Stay-at-home moms watched daytime dramas paid for by consumer product companies that advertised soap, home appliances, and other home consumer goods. After World War II, the proper place for a middle-class woman in America was a housewife, with basically all the responsibilities inside the home, including those of raising the children. However, dissatisfied housewives envied the world of business of their husbands. The majority were of middle class, educated women. Other women, because of financial necessity, worked outside of the home. Motherhood and female professionalism found its roots by the 1960s. But some critics saw this trend coming. Dr. Alfred Kinsey in 1948 broke the Puritan model of sexual secrecy with his study on human sexuality. 2 years earlier, Benjamin Spock, pediatrician, published Baby and Child Care. This book became responsible for the development of post-war child-rearing patterns in America and is still in print and popular today. In 1950, a little-known politician delivered a speech about communist subversion in the federal government. According to Joseph McCarthy, the U.S. government was infiltrated with traitors like Alger Hess, who wanted the communists to win over American powers. By 1953, Republicans in Congress wanted to find these political players. In 1962, Republicans nominated Richard M. Nixon, while Democrats offered John F. Kennedy. The two paired off and debated national issues, in which more than 80 million Americans watched the debates or listened to them on the radio. The 1960 debates are a classic, in which the handsome, confident, well-dressed Kennedy won over Americans in contrast to Nixon's awkwardness and stuffy appearance. 5 days after the Voting Rights Act was passed, a riot erupted on August 11, 1965, in a black section of Los Angeles known as Watts. The Watts riot is among the most violent urban disturbances in U.S. history. By the time it ended 5 days later, 41 people were dead, hundreds were injured, and property damage topped at $200 million.